But for everybody who's reading the book, you also then will realize the lesson that he's teaching us here, and it's about fortitude. Yeah, despite pain, despite what you're going through, you grasp to the ideal, and you don't let go of that ideal just because of a bit of pain. You have to keep going. When reading The Old Man and the Sea, at this point you might be asking yourself, but why this book? And the reason is because there are certain books that have an eternal value through age, through time, and through different cultures. And The Old Man and the Sea is one of those books. Over the course of the next few chapters, 4, 5, and 6, Santiago is going to be sharing with us the knowledge that he has accumulated over the years, but also he's going to be sharing with us the wisdom that he has acquired over the years. Now, it has been said, and of course it is true, that you can acquire another man's knowledge, but you can never possess another man's wisdom. Now, what does this mean? It means that, of course, the things that somebody can teach you or the things that you can learn are very easy to come by repetition or by observing, then you can acquire this knowledge. But wisdom is a whole different matter. For wisdom, you will need to think about it, and it needs to sit, settle, and then in a sense, it becomes your very own. And so you will see these two aspects in Santiago. So the first is Santiago is going with the fish, and the fish is dragging him and dragging him along. At some point in time, Santiago looks and he is tempted to continue being awake and monitoring what is happening with the fish. And then he says, no, I now need to sleep. I could go without sleeping, he told himself, but it would be too dangerous, he says. And that is a lesson for all of us in a culture where we are so caught up with our work and we never think about the time that we need to take to rest, to think, to just decompress, rather. And so from Santiago, this is the first common sense lesson that he tells us, that it'll be too dangerous to go without sleep. Okay? So it's about 8 hours of sleep and not taking joy in the fact that, I only slept for 2 hours and I'm still going strong. Again, the second lesson, and this is just a few of the lessons that we're picking up with from him as he goes along. Another lesson that he gives us is when he's looking at his hands. And of course, his hands by now, they're full of blood and cuts, and he's in a lot of pain, right? And he's tempted to not give up, but, to let it go, to let the big fish go. And so he looks and he says, after looking at his hand, he says, it's not too bad, he said, and pain doesn't matter to a man, right? And so, of course, Hemingway writes very manly books, if we want to say that. So this is such an excellent book to give to a young man, because there are those kinds of little folk wisdom ideas embedded there, that don't worry, keep going despite the pain. But for everybody who's reading the book, you also then will realize the lesson that he's teaching us here, and it's about fortitude. Yeah, despite pain, despite what you're going through, you grasp to the ideal. And you don't let go of that ideal just because of a bit of pain. You have to keep going. And so this is what he tells himself, that I have to keep going despite the pain. And this is the thing about Santiago. You realize that he doesn't have any distractions. And because he doesn't have any distraction, he falls back on himself. He falls back onto what we always call the inner life, his inner life. And in this inner life, he then can come up with thoughts. They may not be particularly original, but then they're thoughts that are his very own. And so the final lesson we can draw from these chapters, and again I say it's the final one that I am that I'm talking about, but there are many others that you will pick up when you read the book for yourself, yeah? But one very important lesson that Santiago comes up with, it's a much more sublime one, more common sense like. And this lesson is when he says, but a man is not made for defeat, he said. A man can be destroyed, but not defeated. This is a phrase that I often find myself coming back to when I think about this book, that a man can be destroyed but not defeated. Think about these words and ask yourself, is this true? Pause the video right here. Think about it. You can kill a person. You can get rid of them. This is how you would go about destroying a person. But to defeat somebody, you will need their own cooperation. Before I am defeated, I will have to agree and acquiesce and say, yes, I have been defeated. And so this is what Santiago tells us as he's wrestling with this fish. He says, a man can be destroyed, but never defeated. And these are the words and the wisdom that he evokes when he continues fighting with this fish. And when he evokes this wisdom, he is able to fight 5 sharks. Not only fight them, kill them. Granted, at each point in time, they took a bite of his swordfish, but at the end, he too had killed 5 of them. So he was beaten, but he was not defeated. And that is why, very triumphantly almost, you want to say, Santiago is able to go back to his little hut, to fall asleep, and continue dreaming about the lions gambling in the seaside. Why? Because Santiago knew that he had put up a good fight. Santiago had lived up to the tradition of being a great fisherman. Santiago had actually captured an 18-foot fish. No one had been there to see it, but he was there, and he saw it, and he did it, and he fought off the sharks. And so this is what it's about. It's about the battles that we fight. The victories, sometimes we lose and sometimes we win. But the battle is what matters. And so the question that we ask ourselves is a question that also has been asked when we read Viktor Frankl. Am I rising up to be worthy of this fight? Am I rising up to be worthy of the demands that have been made upon me? And if we, like Santiago, know that we've put up a good fight, then we can rest easy, knowing that we have lived up to our responsibilities, we have lived up to the demands that have been made upon us. And it is ironic that Santiago really doesn't stop and go and start talking to people and telling them, but I caught a swordfish and it was 18 feet long. I caught it. Oh no. It is they who see the skeleton, the fishermen, when they see the skeleton and then they bow down and they say, wow, and they respect him. But Santiago didn't live so that they would bow down to him and respect him. He doesn't seem to need that. Why? Because as you see him journeying in this fishing expedition, you realize that he has built such a strong inner life. That inner life acts as a buttress against what is happening in the world. And it acts as his anchor through good times and through bad times, through difficult times. And so this is the question that we want to ask ourselves. To what extent do I give into moments of silence so that I can build up inner wisdom, so that I can build up inner values that will always act as my anchor, this inner spirit that always acts as my anchor despite what is going on outside? The Old Man and the Sea. Lessons for us even in this modern era.